Putin's evolving war strategy is now sending fresh shockwaves through NATO, raising fears that an even more dangerous phase may already be underway. A second NATO nation has sounded the alarm, triggering urgent questions over what Vladimir Putin could truly be preparing behind the scenes. Has Ukraine's strongest European ally spotted a looming threat that the rest of the continent has failed to recognize until now? Is Vladimir Putin quietly laying the groundwork for something far bigger, as Germany delivers one of its most chilling security warnings yet? Germany has issued its starkest national security alert in years, leaving Europe asking what is really unfolding behind Russia's next move. Amid rising tensions with Russia, another NATO member has gone on high alert, warning that the possibility of a wider conflict can no longer be ruled out. Germany has officially raised its national security posture to a high threat level, citing mounting risks of potential attacks and hostile activity. Germany's Interior Minister announced the sweeping security upgrade on July 18th, marking a major shift in the country's defensive stance. Berlin said the decision followed a steady increase in intelligence assessments and multiple reports pointing to a deteriorating security environment. German authorities warned that critical infrastructure, public institutions, and ordinary citizens could all face heightened risks under the new threat landscape. Interior Minister Alexander Dobrindt declared that the risk of attacks must be reckoned with at all times, according to Reuters. Dobrindt further revealed that German security agencies have already detected and monitored multiple alleged attack plots targeting Berlin. Beyond Germany, the United Kingdom has also begun shifting onto a war footing, stepping up preparations amid growing fears of confrontation with Russia.
We see the horrendous human toll of these conflicts, which cuts across our values of justice and sovereignty, and that simple British impulse that bullies and dictators cannot be allowed to push people around. We also know that these threats are not remote. We see foreign states targeting our nation as well. Thugs hired by foreign powers conducting violence, vandalism, and arson on our streets. I have been clear that in order to sustain NATO, the most successful military alliance the world has ever seen, European nations must take more primary responsibility for their own defence. These are the changes and the challenges which have defined my premiership and that will continue to shape our times. And look, my view has been the same since day one. We must stand more firmly on our own 2 feet. And the first place I wanted to start is by saying this, that as Prime Minister, you get to meet people from all walks of life, up and down the United Kingdom. And I know how worried they are about the state of our world. They see the wars in Ukraine and in the Middle East impacting on our stability, driving up the cost of living. And they're feeling tired at being at the mercy of events beyond our shores. We see countries that are arming and tensions that are rising, a more dangerous and volatile world than at any time for decades. We see the horrendous human toll of these conflicts, which cuts across our values of justice and sovereignty, and that simple British impulse that bullies and dictators cannot be allowed to push people around. We also know that these threats are not remote. We see foreign states targeting our nation as well. Thugs hired by foreign powers conducting violence, vandalism, and arson on our streets. I have been clear that in order to sustain NATO, the most successful military alliance the world has ever seen, European nations must take more primary responsibility for their own defence. These are the changes and the challenges which have defined my premiership and that will continue to shape our times. And look, my view has been the same since day one. We must stand more firmly on our own 2 feet. We must do what it takes to meet this new world head on, to keep our country safe and seize the opportunities that come from investing in our sovereign strength. That is what we're doing. That's why we have reversed at last the corrosive hollowing out of our armed forces. And it's why we're transforming a defence programme that, frankly, for too long has been underfunded and unsuited to the threats that we face. I've also been clear since day one that we do this not because we want war, but because we want to avoid war.
Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin is pressing ahead with preparations that many believe could mark an even deadlier phase of the war. Russia is raising the stakes against Ukraine by deploying larger numbers of military personnel for future battlefield operations. Russia has reportedly trained more than 140,000 personnel within its military reserve regiments for active combat roles. The Russian troops have reportedly been undergoing intensive battlefield training since the very beginning of 2026. Specialized combat instructors were assigned to prepare the Russian reservists for increasingly complex frontline warfare scenarios. Russia's Deputy Defense Ministry disclosed these preparations during a high-level military meeting, according to multiple reports. The large-scale battle preparations reportedly involved 40 separate training events overseen by as many as 107 combat commanders. The training program was reportedly designed to transfer battlefield experience while forming highly mobile small tactical combat groups, according to the Moscow Times. Russia is also reportedly placing growing emphasis on training personnel to operate ground-based and maritime robotic combat systems. This follows Vladimir Putin's 2025 directive calling for the deployment of a 2 million-strong national mobilization reserve force. In July 2026, Russia's defense ministry reportedly began forming additional mobile firing groups to strengthen protection of key strategic sites. Speculation is now mounting that Russia could launch a much larger nationwide conscription drive later in 2026. This sweeping overhaul of Russia's military comes as Putin simultaneously moves to reinforce air defenses against repeated Ukrainian attacks. Fresh satellite imagery reportedly showed that Vladimir Putin has redeployed key air defense systems from Russia's northern regions to the Moscow area. Even Russian-controlled territories inside occupied Ukraine may now be receiving additional air defense missile systems as part of the wider military reshuffle. Nearly 24 S-300 and S-400 long-range air defense systems have reportedly been relocated from the Russian city of Severodvinsk. The air defense network had previously been deployed to protect Russia's strategic nuclear-powered submarine shipyard, according to reports. The reported redeployment has notably left two major military positions at Yagry Island and Mironov Hill largely abandoned. Yagry Island, once home to 6 S-300 surface-to-air missile systems, is now reportedly left almost completely exposed. Mironov Hill previously hosted 8 S-300 launcher vehicles, but satellite images from 2025 reportedly revealed a dramatic reduction. Experts believe Putin's latest strategy assumes northern Russia remains sufficiently distant from the battlefield to accept reduced air defense coverage. An expert said, and I quote, "Trying to fend off Ukraine's drone and missile strikes against strategic infrastructure deep inside Russian territory, Russia is burning through its interceptor missile stockpiles faster than the defense industry can replace them. This has apparently forced the Kremlin to reallocate many of its air defense assets from lower priority regions to higher priority areas, such as Moscow, St. Petersburg, and operational zones closer to the Ukrainian front, including Crimea. The systems shown on earlier satellite imagery may have been dispersed, undergoing maintenance or replaced by other air defense assets. The apparent disappearance of S-300 or S-400 launchers is probably the result of a temporary redeployment rather than a permanent withdrawal, and the assets may be returned to their original sites once operational requirements elsewhere have been met." End quote. Another defense expert argued that Russia is now prioritizing the protection of Moscow and St. Petersburg above all other regions.